So here's a crazy thing. I have never done a YouTube video before, and I'm going to give one a try today because I think there's something I would have liked to have had that I could not find. So I'm going to try to provide that today. This is the Citation 10 or X. That's relatively new to the sim that everybody's very excited about. And I got excited about it. I bought it and realized that all of the experience I had just flying like PMDG jetliners was just not, it helped, but it just did not get me up and going in this plane. So what I looked for was a YouTube video that was just a quick cold and dark to airborne, and then I could learn all the other detailed stuff as I became more familiar with the plane. So this video is intended to just get you started. This is not a deep dive. There's plenty of videos to help you do that, and essentially I just want to help you get in the plane, get it started, and get enough stuff going that you can give it a go. So this is a video I wish I had when I started. So let's give it a try. I'm loaded up here at Don Scott Field, which is the airport for The Ohio State University, and let's jump inside and get going. First thing I want to do is to make sure that the parking brake is set, and that's just down here in the below the center console right here. It is indeed set. And then go back over here to the electronic flight bag. And if you go to this ground services area right here, the first thing you want to do is you want to obviously close your doors. And then we're going to take the covers off the instruments, the covers off the engine, and we're going to go ahead and take the chocks off because we can do that now. Once we get in there, let's start moving around the cockpit and making the preparations to get this thing up in the air. Come down here and get rid of these two yokes because they really are in the way. Go here to the standby power, turn that on. If for some reason your instruments are not lighting up or not working at some point, it's probably because this guy's not on right here. That's a common kind of newbie mistake in this particular plane. Going to go over here and turn on the emergency light switch and then turn on the two battery switches. Now I could connect to ground power, but we're going to be up so quickly that's not really necessary, and not every airport has ground power available if you're at these smaller, more regional airports. So what we want to do is get the APU up and running. It's over here on the first officer side, and to simply put it on, just turn the master on and give it a start. We're looking for this come up to about 100%, and then we're going to get an indication here that it's ready to go. All right, there it is, ready to load. So let's go ahead and turn the generator on and get the max, the bleed air to on. Now we can go over here and continue to do a few other kind of setup things. We're going to turn the ICAS on and we're going to turn the avionics on. You'll see things are starting to come to life right here. Good job. Now we're going to go down here and go to the IRS, which is down here in the center console. Just put it over to align, and those will start to align for us. Later on, we'll come back, and this actually gets flipped up to nav, but that's later on in the flow. Let's go ahead and start putting everything we need into our FMS. We're going to start here by identifying where we are, so position and it is always first, and we'll get a location. We can load that in, and then what I like to do is, since I use SimBrief, I already put together a flight plan. I'm going to go to SimBrief and recall that flight plan, and that brings the bulk of things already in. I also like to go over here to nav and just start out with where I'm departing from and where I'm arriving, and that helps us a lot with the flight plan. So today we are going to be taking off of 9 right, and then I also like to go in here and honestly just put in the arrival airport. And that's going to be for us. We're going down to Page Field in Fort Myers. That's runway 23. All right, so we're all in. Now we go back over here to the perf page and just start working it through. This is a really easy flow because it just takes you one step to the next. So you can see that some of these pages, some of these screens have several pages, but as soon as those pages are done, you can move on to the next. I am not going to do a dive into things like these kind of details because the basic setup pretty much works. You can fine-tune that when you become more familiar with the plane. So we're going to flip through here, take a look at these. Again, you can change this stuff. We're not going to. There we go. And confirm that. See, now it's moved over, and we can go to the perf data. Again, this is stuff I'm not going to mess with right now. Go to the takeoff page, and we want to see what our current winds are. There's a real handy thing over here. The winds are right here on the kind of the wallpaper of the electronic flight bag, and I've got the weather set at just clear skies because that's just the easiest way to learn. So you can see that it's 270 at 1. That's pretty much nothing, but we're going to go ahead and put it in. That's 270 at 1. Next, we have a dry runway, keeping all this stuff pretty much the same. Next, we're going to go flaps 15. I know that was really weird to me when I first, I'm so used to flaps 5, but when I first started, that was weird, but it really works great, flaps 15. And we're going to go over here to the takeoff data. Our climb. And then we're up to our cruise. Now we want to set our cruise altitude, which today is going to be 43,000 feet. So let's go ahead and stick that in. And then I'm not going to keep going because I'm not anywhere close to descent. Something I want to show you that is over here is on your weights. If you go in and you have a SimBrief account, you can just import that data from right there. And honestly, I'm just going to run through the nav again just to make sure that that didn't change it too much. So take off. The V speeds are a little bit different, and we're good. So I just like to go back to flight plan on this side, and I like to keep progress over on this side. All right, so now we've got everything into the flight management system, and now we can set our heading and altitude bugs. So that setting is actually, it's down here, but since it's hard to see these and the display at the same time, they've given us a couple little cheaters right here, and these two screws can help us do that. So I'm just going to put the altitude where we want to be when we get up to cruise. Again, this is simplified, and I'm not using ATC or anything like that, so we can just go on up and climb 43,000. And for our heading bug is right here. We just want to go runway heading, which is, in our case, 92 degrees. That's the long way around, isn't it? There we go. All right, so we have those two set, our altitude and our heading, and now we can start turning on some exterior lights. Most of that stuff over here with the first officer, and so here are outdoor lights right here. We'll put this up on ground recognition, and then later on we'll put it up here right before we take off, and that'll put more lights on. Recognition, nav, and then the passenger seatbelt isn't just seatbelts like there, it's actually passenger safety, which puts on a little bit more stuff on the inside. All right, we're pretty much ready for a start of the engines, and I want to show you something here on the throttles. There's this cutoff position back here, which it usually loads up in that position. If not, you can bring them back. And what that does is keeps the throttle cut off until you're ready to introduce some fuel. And this start is super easy. Our APU is up and running. I'm down here. We're going to start the right hand number 2 engine first. So we press the start button here, watch for N2 to get to 10%, and then simply just move your throttle forward and back, and that will take it out of this cutoff position, and we'll begin to introduce fuel and give it a start. We're over here on the number 2 engine, and here we go. Now we're going to watch for that to stabilize right around 22%. And you'll see it just settles in and kind of stays there. All right, now we're ready to start engine 1. Go over and do the exact same procedure. Give it a start, watch for 10% right here. As soon as you get to 10, bump the throttle and bring it back, and that will put some fuel in. Watching for that to stabilize as well. And after the engines are stabilized, we want to make sure that we're running on generator power. Now those 2 switches are right here, and by default they explain in the manual that pilots often just leave these in the run position, and if you get a warning here that your generator's not on, it's just because you haven't flipped these switches. I've seen some folks actually take this down to the reset and then turn it back on. I don't know if that's necessary. I've never had to do that, but if you have a problem, maybe that's where it is. Alright, so we need some heat to the heatos. Put those on right there. And we're going to get our flaps set to our takeoff configuration, which is 15. There we go. And then we can set our stab, and that is right here. And what we want is this needle to be in the green. And so we'll just move it down until we get in the green. And it'll also make an audible when it gets there if you're moving pretty quickly. Speed brakes are stowed. Now we go back down to the lower console, and let's go ahead and put our IRS into the nav position. Anti-ice you would put on right now if needed. It's not needed today. And we want to double check and make sure that our passenger safety is at passenger safety. Now we're pretty much ready to get out to the runway, and so let's get our taxi lights on, which is again down here in the lower console, taxi. Our other exterior lights are as we want them, and now we're ready to get out and take off. So take the emergency brake off, give it a little juice, and off we go. One of the things that you can add into this plane is an auto throttle. I 100% recommend using the auto throttle, especially while you're learning it. Later on, don't use it, but for now, use it. And to turn that on, you have to go over here in the EFB, and there's an option to turn on the auto throttle. But to actually turn it on as we're getting ready to fly, we'll flip it on here, and then make sure that this is set over to FMS. Later on you can learn more about flipping it over to manual and how to manage speed that way, but for right now, for this easy cold and dark get start, that's all you want to do. Now this video will just get us off the runway, and then I'll come back at some other time and give us the other end of the flight, and that is the other side of cruise, that's descent to landing. I'm going to come over here to the hold short line at runway 09 right at Don Scott Field. All right, and we're going to do our final preparation for takeoff. We're going to be flying runway heading out of here and then bug over to where we want to ultimately be. So we're going to use heading and vertical nav. This nav right here, if you're used to flying like a Boeing, it's the same thing as like LNAV. But you also have to use flight level change. Imagine my surprise the first time I took off and tried to use the auto throttle and the autopilot, and I started falling out of the sky. It's because I didn't have this button in right here. There is a toga, but we're not going to use that today. That's another step. We're just going to do as simply as we possibly can. So we've got that set up. Let's go ahead and turn our landing lights on. Confirm that our flaps are correct. We are at flap 15. Our slats are all set. Our auto throttle is on, and we are ready to go. Let's make our way out and line up on 09 right. Now, before we take off, I'm going to say this. What I really recommend when you're first learning this plane is get to autopilot as quickly as you can. There's plenty of time in the future to do hand flying, but this will really help you a lot so that you don't get overwhelmed initially as you're learning this plane. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go throttles up to about 50%. Let's get the engine stabilized. Let off the brakes and a little pressure on the yoke, front pressure, and off we go, full throttle. Now watch what happens to this auto throttle eventually as soon as we take off. Okay, V1 and rotate. You're going to want to fly at about 13 degrees right here and kind of stay on your heading. We can go gear up. The initial climb is right there. Now we're going to pay attention to our speed. Oh, I did say let's get the autopilot as soon as we can. There we go. So we're in heading, VNAV, flight level change. It's still climbing. Our speed is coming up. And as we approach this 170 mark right here, we're going to want to get rid of our flaps. So I just right here, I just start working down 5 and then all the way down. And when those flaps come up, then you'll see the speed increase. Did you notice how this switched over to N1 climb? So we got gears up, we got flaps up, autopilot is on, and we can turn off our taxi light. Alright, so we are going runway heading, and I'm pretending like ATC just gave us the clearance to go direct to our first waypoint. So I'm going to come down here and go direct to the waypoint we select. Go ahead and go to vertical navigation or lateral navigation, and you're going to head over in that direction. I've noticed a lot of streamers, I'm not sure if this is right or not, but they stow the thrust reverser until they get ready for the descent. So if you want to do that, do that. And one of the things I failed to do when we took off is to take over here and put our lights up to anti-collision. So you'll want to do that earlier than I did it. Like you, I'm still learning. Okay, we're approaching 10,000 feet. And if all is good at 10,000 feet, then we can go ahead and turn off the passenger safety lights and the landing lights. So let's go for the landing lights. Put those off. And our passenger Safety, we'll just put in the center position, which is off. They're enjoying their flight back here, I see. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this video. That will get you from cold and dark up into the air, climbing towards cruise. And when I have a little bit of time, I'll come in and do the other really big part, and that is descent down to landing. I hope this helped you out to get started. Check back once in a while and see if I have that next video go on. If not, good luck until then, and we'll catch you on the other side.